Hi, this is Chris from Motor Legends, the chap in the cap. I'm here today to talk to you about two boots. I say two boots, but it's in fact the same boots, but there's a lady and a gents model. The men's model is called the M Star, the ladies' boot is called the Lady Star. I'm going to talk you through the boots and what makes them so special. So before we get into the specifics of the boot, let's talk a little bit about Daytona. Because when you buy a Daytona, you are buying into a history. You're going to pay more money than you pay for just about any other boot on the market, but we would contend that that is money well spent. Now, Daytona has been making boots since 1957 from the same factory in Bavaria. The company was founded and is owned and run by two brothers, Helmut and Reinhard Frey. And if you go to the factory today, you will still often find them in their long coats on the shop floor. You might find Helmut at one end of the factory overseeing some pressing machine, whilst Reinhardt's at the other end sweeping the floor, making sure things are running smoothly. These guys are frustratingly old-fashioned at times. They are not marketing people. They do not talk the language of the motorcycle industry at times. They have no desire to create a motorcycle clothing empire. They do not want to make helmets. They're not interested in gloves, in jackets, in pants. They just want to make the world's best motorcycle boots. And few would deny the assertion that over the years they have developed just about the perfect motorcycle boot. There aren't many boots that can match up to a Daytona. So let's go into the boots themselves and look at them, dissect them, and we can explain the difference between the boots and what they do and don't do. Starting point on any boot is the leather. These guys use a hydrophobic leather, a leather that's been treated in the tanning for waterproofing. It's a very strong leather, but it's a very supple leather. I'm going to come back and talk later about why that leather is so important, what it does in terms of the wearability of the boot. But in terms of protecting you, whilst it's a very supple and soft leather, it's a very strong leather, it's a very thick leather. It's as good a leather as you're ever going to want to find on a boot. In terms of protection, let's start in the ankles here. There's a hard protector on both sides of the ankle, but it is lined with open cell foam. So whereas in some boots, when you put them on, you can feel the protectors rubbing up against your ankles, you certainly can't here. And it is certainly a feature of a Daytona boot that they are exceedingly comfortable from the off. You put them on and you feel as though you can walk in a Daytona boot from day one. Same applies with this shin protector. This is a hard plastic protector that comes up to the top of the shaft, but it's latex foam lined. So when you're pressing against the boot on the bike, when you're leaning forward and leaning against it, there's no feeling of discomfort. You've got a hard protector on the toe. You've got a hard counter in the heel. Whilst we're looking at this end of the boot, that's just a reflector. What we have here is a concertina panel that just means that the boot can articulate more easily. You've got one at the front as well. One of the main things that one looks for in a motorcycle boot as opposed to road boot or any other kind of boot is you want great torsional rigidity. In an accident, you don't want a situation where the boot can twist, because that can obviously break the foot. What you've got in this boot is a plastic inlay that runs the length of the insole, and below that, inserted into that, is a galvanized steel inlay. So that makes these boots incredibly strong. In terms of comfort and wearability, on this particular boot, you have a storm flap on both the inner zip and the outer zip. You don't get that on every boot in the range. It's an added touch, not really necessary in some ways, because you've got the Gore-Tex membrane inside. Water's not going to get in, but the added flap is just going to make sure that water cannot seep in via the zips to make you feel cold, if not wet. You've got a full height climatic Gore-Tex inner. So we've got the leather that's hydrophobically treated. That's useful, it stops the rain coming in, but actually the real barrier to rain, to moisture and water reaching the foot, is the Gore-Tex insert. You've got this band around the top that catches water. If you're wearing a short trouser and water is coming over the top, that is meant to catch that and stop it leaking down into the boot. Now, what marks these boots out as different from any other boot, as I've mentioned, is the fact that they have a heel lift. That has some implications in terms of the wearability of these boots, and we need to just talk through that. Now, normally with a Daytona, you will go down a size over your normal size. So if somebody comes into the shop and they're a 44, we will often try a 43 size because they come up generous in terms of fit, and it's a super soft leather. I think that sometimes changes with this particular boot because you've got the lift. It can put more pressure on the arch here, and until you break the bridge in, that can be a little bit tight. So I would think with this boot, we would probably go true to size, whereas with other boots, we might tend to go down. When you first get a pair of Daytonas, there's a little trick to getting in and out of them easily. You have to make sure that the inner zip is fully undone. This zip, the outer zip, is a curved zip. And when the boot is tight, I think particularly on this boot, because you are going to be putting more pressure on the bridge here because of the heel lift, this zip is going to be tight. And getting around that bend can be difficult. That's why with this boot more than any other, it's important that that's open. But the idea is that you'll get round this, you'll get that up, and then it's easy to turn over and do the inside. Now, we've mentioned that these boots are not inexpensive. At present, as we record this towards the end of November in 2019, both these boots are priced at £420, more or less. You can buy boots that would purport to do a similar job for half the price of these. I don't know about boots with heel lifts in truth. I'm sure there are some out there in the market, but my point is a general one about Daytona. You are going to pay more for a pair of Daytona boots. Now that's partly because Helmut and Reinhardt will only use the finest components. Their view is we're just going to use the best bits we can in our boots, and the price is the price. But there is a reason that it's worth paying the extra for these boots, and that is if they're looked after, these boots are going to last for life. We must send about half a dozen pairs back to the factory in Germany every month. What the factory will do, they will replace the sole, they will replace the gear change, they will repair the zips, they will replace the waterproof membrane if necessary. Every part of this boot is repairable. Now clearly there comes a point where if you're doing all of those in one go, then you might as well buy a new pair of boots. But we have customers who have done hundreds of thousands of miles in these boots. They wear them out, they bring them in, we send them back to the factory, they come back, then they've got another 5 or 10 years life in them. There is just one thing that you really need to be aware of. You have to look after the boots. Problem with boots is they are horribly exposed to the elements. The rain bounces off the floor, makes them incredibly wet. They're going to get very cold in the winter, and they're exposed to the wind chill factor. So if you're running along at 70 miles an hour and the temperature is 2 degrees, that's -20. It's going to dry the leather out in the sun. They're going to get bleached. You've got the heat of the engine. Our boots take a lot of abuse. Now, Daytona leather is a wee bit special. It has its own blend of oils and waxes, and therefore we wouldn't normally recommend this, because when most people say use our polish, I don't believe their polish is anything special, but it is with Daytona boots. If you want to look after your boots, you need to use their own lotions and potions, because they're different to anything else you'll find it in a shoe shop, and they match the balance of oils and waxes in this leather. The reason you need to do it, particularly, is that the one condition Daytona put on repairing their boots is that the leather has to be supple and soft. If you've allowed these boots to dry out and you have crack marks here and you can see through the leather, then Daytona will not touch them, because they cannot guarantee that these boots are again going to be waterproof. So look after the boots. Depends on the mileage you do, but for most of us, if it's done once a quarter, if you're doing high miles, then maybe once a month, but just treat them with the restorer, then maybe blacken them up. Just keep the boots nice and soft and supple, and then they will last. They'll be riding pretty much as long as you are. So those are the boots, the Daytona, Lady Star and the M Star. Same as the Road Star in most respects, not particularly different from the Travel Star Pro. The only difference is this heel lift that for some people is going to be essential. I don't think there's a better boot on the market than a Daytona. They are fabulous to wear. They are incredibly comfortable. They're going to last forever. You'll pay a little bit more for them, but if you use some kind of discounted cash flow technique and work out that you might be paying £400 for a pair of boots that could last 10 years, that's £40 a year. Surely looking after your feet, keeping them safe, keeping them dry, that's got to be money well spent. Anyway, if you'd like to read more about the boots, if you'd like to get more information, visit the website www.motolegends.com. If you'd like to receive our email bulletins, then you can do that on the front page of the website. Front page of our website has lots of little squares. We call them tiles. There's one there to subscribe. Week in, week out, we get new products into the building, and whenever those products arrive, we send out an email bulletin explaining what they are and giving all the relevant details. If you're someone who would prefer to get your information videographically, then you can subscribe. We'd be delighted if you were to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can do that on the subscribe button below. If you'd like to go direct to the boots, if I've excited you so much that you feel that you just cannot live without a pair of M Stars or Lady Stars, then if you press the button just above me up there, you can go directly to the boots. Anyway, this has been Chris from Moto Legends. I hope you've enjoyed hearing about the Daytona M Stars and Lady Stars. A fantastic boot. You really won't go wrong with a pair of these. Anyway, thanks a lot for listening. Talk to you soon.